everybody. Welcome to another sensational session of Strike a Chord Live podcast with my dear brother, Collin Harbour. He's right there in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Marcus Ellis. I'm here in Pensacola, Florida. Collin, why don't you tell him who we are?
We are two lifelong friends with a love of baseball, music, motivation, and inspiration mixed with a little bit of nostalgia, culture, transformation, and fun. And we want you to take the journey with us.
This is Strike a Chord Live podcast. Stranger danger.
What's going on, man?
Who are you?
No, I haven't seen, as my dad would say, I haven't seen neither hide nor hair of you the last week or so.
Yeah, we had a great trip down to Universal Studios where, as you know, my band family and my wife teach young musicians in the Emerald Coast Honors Orchestra, the nonprofit here that they have here in Pensacola. We take them down. They play all over the country, but we were chaperones when they went to play at Universal Studios last week. So I was on the road and, having to get up and deal with kids early and things like that. There was no way I could have done this down there.
It's really difficult to do it. I had, envisioned when I travel, which I don't travel nearly as much as I used to, thank goodness. But I had envisioned that, I'll take my microphone, I'll just get up just like normal. But I mean, you forget, particularly if you're at a business conference. I mean, even if you don't go wild, you're
up late.
You're working hard, and a lot of times into the night, and into, like I said, even if you don't drink at a business conference, you could work till 11 or 12 just being with the crowd, right?
Sure.
Just kind of keeping your connections happy. So I've never really pulled off the I'm just going to wake up and do the podcast while I'm traveling.
Yeah, I did it once when I was at Embrace Your Ambition conference when I went to Dallas and saw you. But that was just because I had a hotel room to myself and I wasn't out late and things like that. But before we get started, I want to say good morning to everybody. We love you. I see you, Summer Star. Good morning. But there's somebody that says, good morning, brother, Facebook user. I don't know who that is, but I love you. Thank you for being my brother. Collin, they may know you and not me. But we also want to say thank you so much to the folks that are listening and watching on the hashtag replay, as the kids call it. We appreciate you coming back and listening and watching us on the replay. We've got an incredible session for you today. And really, Collin, we're just going to be speaking from the heart, from what you and I are going through as entrepreneurs today, because baby, it might look easy, but it ain't easy.
Mark just makes it look easy, right? He just makes it look easy.
I'm a charlatan. No, I'm not.
Charlatan. That sounds very biblical, negative biblical.
Yeah, it does sound negative. So let's move on. Good band out of the 60s, though, the Charlatans.
Yeah, sure. I know. So we're talking about entrepreneurship, right? And stress and just different things like that. I'm getting the notes out right now. I mean,
you like to call it solopreneurship. I'm very grateful and that I've partnered with our brother Ryan Gallagher in our real estate business. You have partners in your real estate business, but when it all comes down to it, you and I are still supporting our families. So
yeah, I think you're still, even though you have a partner on that business, I still consider you a solopreneur. But one of my on a different podcast, one of the guests kept saying solo entrepreneurship instead of solopreneur. And I thought, because I think solopreneur technically isn't even a word, right? But solo entrepreneurship really outlines it in that ultimately you're on your own, man. You're flying solo. Yes, sure. You've got, let's say, this business line, this business, and you do have a partner. But at the end of the day, it's Mark Ellis Inc., right?
It is.
It's I Love You Inc. At the end of the day, I refer to Collin Harbour Inc. all the time, even though that is not my incorporated business. My incorporated business is C Harbour Services LLC, and then I've got a partner in another business. But ultimately, it all flows into what I call Collin Harbour Inc., which is a solo entrepreneur venture.
Yeah, man. Well, real quick, good morning, Peggy Gossman. Good to see you. You're always here. We love you. Thank you for supporting us. Can't wait to see you at a White Tie show soon. By the way, Collin, White Tie Rock Ensemble has an incredible show coming up July 15th here in Pensacola. We're doing British rock, so we're doing some Zeppelin and some Paul McCartney and Wings. We're not doing Beatles, we're doing Wings, which I love to do. First time ever, we're playing some Bad Company. So I'm real excited about that. Bad Company. Can't wait.
Yeah, man. Love some Bad Company, some Bad baby.
Exactly. But, when we're doing this thing, I mean, you started your solopreneurship before COVID started. I did
It was right. It was right during COVID. It was during COVID. It was during a global pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And as horrible and awful as that was, there was a lot of good that came out of it. And we learned that we don't have to work for the man. Not downing the man, just saying we don't have to work for the man. We can work for ourselves. And I don't, let me ask you this. Do you notice any other, and then we'll get to our takeaways, but do you notice any other, any difference in the stress that you experienced when you were working for somebody versus working for yourself? Is the stress greater as a solopreneur, or is the stress the same when you were working for a big corporation?
Yeah, I think that first of all, with one exception, and I wasn't there for long, I've never really worked for a big corporation. Most of the times I've worked for small or mid-sized businesses, which I really like. But that's a great question. That is a great question, because I think a lot of it depended on where I was on my journey within the organization and what was going on. I mean, one of the companies I was at was bought out by a private equity company, and I got a promotion actually at that. And yeah, my stress level went up, right? I mean, it was essentially like, you never knew if the next day was going to be the day you were going to be cut. And eventually I was. But you live in that environment. And so a lot of people live in that environment. Yeah, it could be stressful. You could have a bad boss, right? You could have you could have bad employees. You could have a bad partner, coworker, same level. So there's a lot of different things. And quite frankly, businesses cut people all the time, right? Corporations, big and small, do it for various reasons. Sometimes because they have to, sometimes because they want to, and sometimes because they're just trying to improve their numbers, right? So it's not the greatest atmosphere environment in the world, quite frankly, working for somebody else either, I don't think.
Right. Well, real quick,
not very positive, is it? That's not a positive attitude.
But it's not, and that's why we're going to do this, to have some takeaways for folks, to let them know, what they can do, whether it's, whether they're a solopreneur or whether they're selling cars. And a lot of my dear brothers like Nat Banks and people like that, he's now manager of a car lot, like a massive car lot. And I'm probably not saying it properly. I'm probably downgrading what he's doing. But real quick, I see some people. Sean Weatherby, I love you, bro. Good to see you. Cindy Lucard, I love you. Can't wait to see you at the OWA show. By the way, we are playing OWA. Alan Shaw, an incredible artist. I've got your turtle painting that you painted for my daughter Morgan over her bed. Good to see you guys. But yeah, as we're going through this, Collin, man, we got to take some deep breaths. When you're talking about, when I was working for a big corporation, there was always the fear of the company dying or me getting fired. And that instills fear in us. And first of all, you got to have faith. Cue George Michael. You got to have faith to get through those stressful situations. But let's give some actionable items on things that people can do, because, you're going through your business, signing contracts, managing vendors, things like that. I'm helping people out in foreclosure process. Me and Ryan Gallagher are helping people out in the foreclosure process, and talk about stress. You're managing people's stress. And the other day, what made me think about this session for methods for overcoming stress as entrepreneurs. I was on the phone with Ryan. He's like, "You sound stressed," and I was like, "I am. We're down to the wire trying to get these people helped so that they don't lose their home, so they're not out on the streets." And unlike other real estate investors, I have my heart in the game, which a lot of people tell me I shouldn't have, but that's just the way I'm going to do it. So what are some of the ways, like, you're at home, you're working at home, I'm at home, I'm working at home. What are some of the things that you do when you go, okay, I'm starting to tweak out here, I've got to stop and do something else just so I can, bring my blood pressure down or bring my heart rate down?
Yeah. And some of this, I'll tell you, I don't do enough of, right, at the end of the day. But I will also say there was a post maybe on LinkedIn or something the other day. An entrepreneur says, something like 10 things you'll never regret doing, right? Or 5 things you'll never regret doing. I don't remember the number. I don't even remember all the others, but I remember one of them was stop and take 10 deep breaths, right? And I guess the point there was sometimes you got to stop, relax, take a breath, do whatever, and you'll never regret doing that, right? You'll never regret refocusing, getting oxygen in yourself,
Yeah.
whatever the situation is. And so to me, I have to do that a lot. So I do have a client now that I go actually up to their office almost every day, which didn't fully expect that it was going to be like that, but that's okay because, they essentially have got a workspace outside of the house. But when I was, working from home, and particularly when the children are in school and it's just me
Sure.
at home, a lot of times, yeah, you just got to stop and, flip on CNBC or, whatever business network you watch. If you watch a business network, right?
Yeah.
Fox Business, CNBC, Wall Street, whatever you watch. Sometimes you guys got to flip it on during the day. And you hear about a lot of problems going on at businesses, and then you realize, hey, I may be a solo entrepreneur, but, Target is having problems, or Walmart is having problems, or you hear about all these, and I don't say it in a negative light, but in a business light, of there's just challenges sometimes, and it helps you refocus that whether you're a solo entrepreneur or a multi-billion dollar corporation, you're going to have issues. I have lost you, Mark Ellis, and I don't know if it's just me.
And we're back. You say
I was
you have
actually just texting you because I didn't know if it was me. I didn't know
yeah.
if it was you. I didn't know if it was both of us, or if it was the World Wide Web.
It's on the internets. But you know what's cool about that? You were talking about challenges that we both roll with it. Everybody, Summer Star says he froze. Peggy says I lost them both. So if that happens, folks, we're just going to sit here and come right back to you. But you brought up a really good point. It reminds me of that REO Speedwagon song we used to listen to up in your room on Miniwa Path, and it's "Roll with the Changes." We just roll with it. And Mandolin Harris, my dear sister, says a couple of great things here, and it goes in concert with your stop and take 10 breaths. She says, pray and read God's word. That's something that I do, is that I have some, biblical meditation apps, and I'll stop and put in my earbuds, and they talk about breathing deep, like you say, and things like that. I get into that, and she says, take some me time and shut the world off. That's a really good advice there. And so really breathing is huge, because that lowers your blood pressure. It lowers your heart rate, is what I'm trying to say. So I really love that takeaway that you have. Another way for me is to move my body and exercise, to take a walk. Moving your body and exercising is proven to decrease tension, blood pressure, heart rate, and it short circuits anxiety, right? It gets rid of the anxiety. And really, that's what you and I are dealing with in this solopreneurship. Is this going to work out? It's being anxious and anxiety, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of anxiety. There is a lot of doubt. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, oh man, should I just go do this? And again, I don't know that it's much different than anybody. It's just that, when it's your business or you're an entrepreneur, whether you have a partner or multiple partners or solo entrepreneur, it's just a different kind of stress. I don't want to say it's more or less. It's a different kind of stress. So all of these things can really pretty much be applied to anything. But yeah, so breathe, move your body. It's just like in everything in life. Get up, take a walk. Now, I used to do that when I worked when I was actually at home and not at the client's office. My gym is about a mile and a half from me. So I would walk
Right.
there, do a little workout there, and then walk home during lunch, which had multiple benefits. One is I wasn't sitting around eating chicken wings or something. Two, I was exercising and it was walking. It wasn't running because I'm getting a little bit old, the knees just won't do. But I wish I could go back to do it because it was a long, it was, an hour and a half, 2 hours workout, quote
Yeah,
unquote.
that's huge. I think that's one of the most beneficial things that you could do. Speaking of knees, I'm going to get off the path here a little bit, but I just watched a phenomenal, the ESPN show 30 for 30.
Hmm.
Man, last night they had 2 episodes on Bill Walton,
Hmm. I haven't
and
seen that. Yeah.
it just came out last night.
Okay.
And I mean, talk about perseverance. And I've hung out and met Bill Walton many times because he's been at almost every Grateful Dead show I've been in. I mean, as a fan, Bill Walton saw 1,000 Grateful Dead shows. I only saw 122. But man, this guy had knee surgery after knee surgery, back surgery after back, because he was 7 feet tall and didn't have a lot of bone. I mean, not a lot of muscle. He's a skinny dude, but he persevered. He kept working through the pain. And that's what we're talking about here is working through the stress, working through the pain. What are the things that we can do? And I really love what Mandolin Harris said is prayer is huge. A lot of times when, do you kick the covers at night? Are there times where you're like up at night and in the middle of the night and you're stressed about your business and you just, can't get back to sleep?
Yeah. It's daily, every day.
So for me, I pray right then and there, and I pray for, for the stress, the anxiety to leave. And then I pray for God to put me back to sleep. And guess what? It works. It really works. It's just one of those things, one of those methods that I do. So I would encourage you. And, a lot of people think, you have to be in a certain position, on your knees, close your eye. No, I mean, do you remember Bob Newbold?
Yeah, of course.
He was our RAs teacher. I can remember when we were in RAs in church and as a kid that he was like, you can pray with your eyes open driving down the street. And that was something that really struck a chord with me, that stuck with me. So folks, I mean, you can be in bed, lying down, where you're up at night, kicking the covers, as I say, and you pray and it will go away. Peggy Gossman says a quick splash of cold water on your face also lowers blood pressure as a quick rejuvenation. Peggy, it's funny. I got a little spritzer bottle that my wife has, this little spritzer bottle that has some smell goods in it that I spray my face. And that's another thing. So there's so many ways, Collin. Summer Star says a cold bath. Man, those cold showers when I was doing 75 hard, I don't miss those. Woo!
Yeah, I don't know why you did that. I remember when you had that when everybody was going through that. That's one that I just passed on.
But you've run a marathon.
Half marathon.
Yeah, you're still a marathon runner. But so, I guess, we're talking about stress in business and so, but these are takeaways when you're having a stressful life, when you're, having a problem with your spouse or significant other or your parents or your kids or whatever. These are things that you can do to lower the stress level, to bring down the temperature, to create a positive situation out of a negative situation, right?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think we've talked a million times about mindset. And I don't know that we're kind of talking about mindset, but we're talking about dealing with stress. And I think, one of the things is maybe someone who has a bad situation at work always thinks, oh, you just don't understand how bad my situation is. Or someone who's an entrepreneur thinks, well, you just don't understand how bad my situation is. And then there are some really bad, maybe family situations and stuff like that. And maybe somebody like me doesn't understand. But I think the point I'm making is everybody's got a similar level of stress in their life about something. A lot of times you don't see it because they're handling it certain ways, or they're, maybe they keep it in or whatever. But a lot of times, they're handling it differently. They handle stress by breathing, walking, exercising, praying, having faith, doing other things. I'll tell you, my faith's been tested a lot the last few weeks, really tested. And so it's an interesting process, right?
Yeah, well, I think what you're saying, which is a key takeaway, is everybody goes through these situations, whatever the situation is.
That
Everybody has
is, thank you for being so
succinct.
succinct in my point.
It's how you deal with it, Colin, is what you're saying. It's how you handle it. Now, me, man, I will tell you, I would Tasmanian devil myself, spin myself into the ground up until recently. I mean, I would really, I mean, it was all day long. And I'm pretty sure it took years off my life. How I handled that, is just wringing my hands and, really succumbing to the stress. Right. But once I learned how to handle it, it's been so much better and so different. And here's another key takeaway that I love and why I like doing this with you. It's really important to connect with other entrepreneurs, other people that are going through the same thing that you're going to, so that you can talk to each other and bounce ideas off each other, commiserate, for lack of a better term, so that you can engage in less stressful activities with other entrepreneurs that, it's kind of like it's kind of like we're homeschooled, man. We're homeschooled and we don't have those kids in the classroom to interact with. We got to go to the homeschool park and hang out with the other kids so that we can bring that stress level down. Right.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's everybody's going to deal with stress. Everybody's going to have to face some of these issues.
Well, I'm going to ask you this. Are you a perfectionist?
No, I believe complete is better than perfect. If that
And I
makes
love
sense.
that. Yeah.
Done is better than perfect is my philosophy. I mean, there are things that need to be done right. Don't get me wrong. But I do think too that perfectionism can really be an excuse that people use to not get stuff done. I almost said something else, to not get stuff done.
Ish is the way people say that these days. Ish.
Not get ish done.
Yeah. This is what I love about this is that let's strive, folks, whatever it is, let's strive for excellence versus perfection. Right? Because nobody's perfect. There was only one perfect person on the planet, and that was Jesus Christ. We know that. So you're not perfect, baby. Let's strive for excellence. Let's go for those targets and not goals, because we can hit that very outside of the target, Colin, and still succeed. It's when we place undue stressors on ourselves to hit a goal, right? A specific goal that, oh man, I didn't win the race. Well, I don't agree with the Ricky Bobby philosophy that second place is just first loser. As funny as that is, which is great, and a lot of people will say that in sports, and yeah, that's true. Second is first loser. But when we're talking about life and we're talking about business, it's okay to hit the target and not hit the bullseye.
Yeah, no doubt. I love that second place is just the first loser. I've said that to my children a couple of times, jokingly.
Yeah. It's funny. It is true, but it's negative.
It is funny, and it's great in the context that that movie. That's great. But it's funny. There's just some funny human beings in this world, and I love funny people.
I just noticed, like us, Will Ferrell's getting old.
Yeah, Will Ferrell. I mean, just and I'm sorry, I don't even know what we're talking about now. Just some people make me laugh. He is literally one of those guys that if you look at, like, I can't even look at him without kind of chuckling a little bit,
Yeah.
It's like we talk about everybody's so vindictive and mean to each other about all this political. I don't know what his political views are. I don't know what his spiritual views are. I don't know really anything about him. I just know that when I look at him, it brings a smile to my face.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Now, what were we talking about? We were talking about
second place is first loser.
Okay,
I'm a
perfectionism.
Yeah.
It's great to be perfect at something if you can,
But
10 out of 10, 9 out of 9, whatever. It all sounds great, but you're generally not going to achieve that, right? You're generally not going to achieve perfect. Or again, it's a mindset. I mean, perfection, we talk about beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Perfection may be in the eye of the beholder, quite frankly. Getting something done may be the perfect situation from you. I've
Well,
got
that's the point.
goals that I need to achieve in the next 7 days that have to do with capital and other things that
Right.
if let's say if I have X amount as the goal, but X amount were to come in, then I think I'm okay, even though I didn't perfectly meet my goal, right? And I hate to be so vague about that, but just as an example, your goal sometimes is really what you should strive for, like you said. But
Yeah.
perfectionism uh, isn't going to happen most of the time, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's just really not. Hey, I see Ricky McWilliams here. I love you, sister. Praying for you. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for pulling up. But yeah, it reminded me of something I saw yesterday it's hilarious, and it's John McEnroe. And John McEnroe was in a pickleball game tournament, right? And this is like a lot of people around, and he had a foot fault, and he came unglued like old school John McEnroe. And I had to watch it over and over. I was dying laughing. It really wasn't a big thing, but he was just like, oh, it's that same thing. Chalk flew up, that John McEnroe thing. And people like that, athletes, musicians. I know that Ryan Gallagher, what's up? I've been dropping your name all morning long. Let's say playing in white tie. I'll hit a bad note. I won't hit. I sang the national anthem for a dear friend of ours, and then I didn't hit the land of the free, and it mortified me. I mean, I was at the Navy base. It was her husband's retirement. And man, I beat myself up for a week over that. Nobody noticed, or they were being nice and didn't tell me, that they noticed. They're like, oh, it was perfect. It wasn't perfect to me. So that's give yourself a break as a solopreneur, as an entrepreneur, to relieve stress. You got to give yourself a break. You're not perfect, baby. It's not going to happen. So when there's mistakes, what do we talk about in previous sessions? We fail forward. We learn from our mistakes. So I mean, people know this about me, and they'll point it out. You're really hard on yourself, Mark. You're really hard on yourself. Yeah, I have to learn how to handle that so that I don't Tasmanian devil myself in the ground.
Yeah, most people are hard on themselves. Last week my oldest daughter was at cheer camp,
Okay.
NCAA cheer camp, and they had to try out, or you could choose to try out for All-American cheer, or you had to at some schools. But there's a lot of people trying out, and when you try out for All-American cheer, you try out in front of all the parents. I mean, like everybody who's there,
Right.
all your peers, and it's not like you're just in a room with a few judges. I mean, you're trying out, and everybody's watching you. So Audrey came off of her tryout just shaking her head, just very upset. I screwed up. Well, Gina actually videoed it and showed it to her. And when she saw it, she was like, okay, well, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Right.
Yeah. Great
Which,
point.
by the way, she did make All-American cheer. That's my point of telling the story. No, just kidding. But she did make it. She was one of 3 people from our school who made it. But the point was, a lot of times things just aren't as bad as you think, right? They're just not as bad. You feel this pressure. You feel what you're putting on yourself. But frankly, a lot of people don't see the things that you see, or maybe in your head, you're playing it back wrong, or, So.
That's such a great point, man. That's the takeaway right there, that, it's not, you're not performing as poorly as you think, is she already graduated from high school?
No, she's going into her senior year. NCAA, not NCAA, NCAA, National Cheerleader Association.
Gotcha. And has she chosen the school that she's going to?
She has not.
Is she going to Baylor?
I think it's still out there as a top 3, probably.
And how will you feel if she chooses somewhere besides Baylor?
What's that?
How will you feel if she chooses somewhere besides your alma mater?
It does. I've told her all along. I mean, I think she likes Oklahoma, OU Sooners. I think she likes Baylor. I think she likes TCU a little bit, which is a problem. That's more of a problem because Baylor.
That's a rivalry, right?
What's that?
That's a rivalry with Baylor, right?
That's a rivalry, and so that would essentially be she'd be a traitor in that situation. But
that just reminds me of whatever that commercial was where Herschel Walker was on there, and it was Bo Jackson. He was like, rivalry, and they were like, rivalry? He said, yeah, rivalry, because he couldn't talk, and they were saying, I don't know, I digress. It's a really funny commercial. But yeah, that's a great point that you brought up about your daughter cheering. I mean, here's something that, hey, thanks so much, Douglas McLeod. We appreciate that. Says, enjoying the show. Good morning. We love you, man. Good to see you. And I believe, Doug, that you're watching this from the White Tie page, which is really cool. And that's what I was just about to talk about. Fortunately, Collin, I don't suffer from performance anxiety. I don't have stage fright, but I will say that I will get too amped up internally before a show, like excited. And man, the adrenaline will be flowing and I can hardly breathe getting out on stage. And then it's hard to sing at first. And it's not a fear. It's like, it's like, remember when we played football and we'd hit each other on the shoulder pads and get all amped up. It's kind of like that. And really it's just paying attention to your breath, paying attention to your mindset that we talk about all the time, incorporating some of these takeaways that we've been talking about, praying and meditation, breathing, exercising. I mean, I do go walk around the Civic Center, like literally walk around the ring of the arena before we play just to get some of the yayas out. You know what I mean? So there are many things that you can do to lower the stress level in your life.
Yeah, no doubt. You could also read, right? If someone wanted to. I know we've focused on a few things, breathing and or moving. It does not necessarily exercising, but moving, right? Moving your joints, moving your legs. Exactly what you just talked about. But you could, some people read. Like you laughed when I said I flip on the TV and watch MSNBC, or some form of business news. But seriously, it relieves stress to me because it's like the whole world's falling apart.
Well,
doesn't matter what my business is just fine. At least I don't have to answer to shareholders about a 25% decline and multi-billion-dollar drop in market value, and so it's kind of like it'll be okay.
Yeah, no, I only laugh because turning on the news, is some negativity stuff.
It's business news. It's fun. It's fun.
But like Mandolin says, it's a distraction, right? It's something to take your mind off the current situation. So that's perfect. What's up, Ryan Austin? Love you, bro. Good to see you. We got to get Ryan back on to see how his progress is going with his marathon training. I know he's doing that every day. But man, this has been a phenomenal session. I've learned a lot. I know that you and I, we chose this topic because we're going through stressful situations in our business. But the bottom line is it's going to be okay, baby. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like I tell my daughter, Morgan, okay, you run out of money, your family's starving, you're out on the street. Is that ever going to happen? Probably not. Probably not. It could happen. It's happened to people. But if you think about it, you and I have persevered probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 different stressful situations since we've been doing this podcast in the 2 years. And those things that we were worried about never happened.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, a lot of the stuff. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. But you never know till it's over. No,
that's what Mandolin said. Tomorrow's never guaranteed to anyone, so you don't know. So enjoy your day today. Don't be stressed out. Love yourself. Love others. Hey, a way to reduce stress is walk up to somebody you've never met before and tell them you love them and watch what happens when they melt in front of you, right? Man, this has been great. I love the comments. Use your time wisely. Don't waste your energy. Tell somebody you love them. Breathe, pray, exercise. We've had more takeaways in this session probably than a few put together.
Yeah, no doubt. You're like, I can hear you, but sometimes there's a delay in the video, so it's kind of funny. I've been enjoying
just don't watch my face. I'm not pretty anyways.
Yeah. I'm trying to block you out, like not look at that part of the screen.
That's great. Well, thank you folks so much for watching the session. We may have a guest on Friday. I don't know. We've got a few lined up, but we will be back on Friday with another sensational session of Strike a Chord Live podcast with my dear brother. He's right there on the right side of the screen if you're looking at it. He's Collin Harbour. I'm Marcus Ellis. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you back here on Friday for another sensational session of Strike a Chord Live podcast. Peace and chicken grease. We're out.